Zaga's group immediately escalates to violence when Lu Dahai questions them, with Yamet delivering a brutal knee strike that doubles Lu Dahai over in pain. Zaga seizes plates and repeatedly smashes them on Lu Dahai's head, causing profuse bleeding and dizziness, displaying murderous intent without restraint. Ronlei and Yugang rush to aid Lu Dahai but are swiftly overpowered by Elad, Yamet, and other stowaways, leaving all three fishermen severely injured and collapsed on the ground. A bystander attempts to intervene, warning that further violence might alert the upper decks, prompting Zaga to halt. Zagu arrogantly announces a new order: he will control the cabin, with stowaways eating first from now on. The terrified refugees remain silent as Zagu's men take 2 buckets of the best food. One stowaway attempts to take more but is coldly stopped by Zagu, who then leads his group away, leaving the remaining food diminished. The refugees, driven by hunger and fear, descend into a chaotic scramble for the scraps, with roars, screams, and violence erupting in the corridor. Lu Dahai and his companions are nearly trampled but are dragged to safety by fellow fishermen. In their cabin, the stowaways celebrate their successful intimidation, enjoying a full meal for the first time. Elad flatters Zagu, who explains his strategy: by being ruthlessly dominant like a lion among sheep, he instills fear without triggering full rebellion, and by leaving a sliver of hope, some food, he prevents desperate resistance. Zagu cautions against escalating to killing or attracting upper deck attention, betting that Zhang Yi's indifference will allow their control to persist as long as violence remains contained. Lu Dahai, Ronlei, and Yugang lie severely injured and near death after the beating. Fellow refugees consider seeking medical help but are dissuaded by others fearing repercussions from the upper decks, who might punish everyone for the disturbance. Despite arguments that the stowaways are at fault, the prevailing mind-your-own-business mentality leads to inaction, with only basic bandaging provided by fishermen like Huang Deshang. Overnight, the 3 men show improvement due to Zagu's restrained violence avoiding vital points, though Lu Dahai suffers a concussion and all experience intense pain. Lu Dahai burns with rage not only toward the stowaways but also toward the cowardly refugees who abandoned him. He secretly convenes with Ronlei and Yugang in the bathroom, proposing a ruthless plan for revenge. His brothers, initially hesitant, agree after Lu Dahai argues that desperation justifies extreme measures, targeting both the stowaways and the uncooperative passengers. They resolve to implement a new, violent strategy to seize control. Meanwhile, on the upper decks, Zhu Yunk and Sun Wanqi are distracted by childcare duties for Tommy, who falls ill with a skin infection from poor hygiene. Zhou Kor diagnoses the issue, emphasizing the need for frequent diaper changes, exacerbating Zhu Yunk and Sun Wanqi's exhaustion and frustration from sleep deprivation and constant care. Their focus on Tommy causes them to neglect the escalating crisis below, with no resolution in sight until disembarkation over a month later. It was mealtime on the lower decks, and the smugglers arrived slightly late, with all refugees waiting nervously and not daring to move until Zagu appeared with his coat draped over his shoulder and a straw root from a mat dangling from his mouth, followed by his usual large group of smugglers. Zaga watched with satisfaction as his men took the 2 best portions of food, and after they left, the remaining refugees scrambled for the largest bucket, demonstrating the complete breakdown of order into a system of robbery and survival of the fittest. Lu Dahai signaled to his brothers Ronlei and Yugang, who pulled sharpened toothbrush daggers from their pockets, weapons they had crafted knowing toothbrushes were not strictly searched and could be lethal with enough force. Lu Dahai rushed toward the food buckets, grabbed a middle-aged man, and shoved the toothbrush into his cheek, causing severe injury with the forceful penetration, then punched him twice hard in the throat, leaving the man collapsed and screaming in pain. The onlookers were stunned, as Lu Dahai had previously been seen as righteous and had led efforts to seek justice from Zhang Yi, making his sudden viciousness shocking. A merchant accused him of madness, but Lu Dahai, with blood dripping from the toothbrush and covering his arms and face, declared that from now on, he would control the food after the smugglers took their share. His brothers brandished their own toothbrush weapons, and though the refugees protested, calling Lu Dahai no different from the illegal immigrants and appealing to shared nationality, he cursed them as spineless cowards who deserved this treatment for not helping when he was beaten. He threatened to kill anyone who disobeyed, and despite their anger, no one dared oppose him, all stepping back and hoping for a hero to emerge, but none did, revealing their cowardice and self-preservation instincts. Lu Dahai laughed scornfully at their weakness, then took the 2 largest buckets of food, but feeling unsatisfied, he turned and spat multiple times into the other buckets, horrifying everyone with the contamination. He and his brothers returned to their cabin triumphantly, leaving the remaining food insufficient for about 100 people, half of whom now faced starvation or eating saliva-tainted food. In the smuggler gang's room, Zagu heard the commotion and mocked the infighting, pleased that more deaths would ease food supply issues, reflecting Zhang Yi's indifference. Meanwhile, the refugees, after initial hesitation, rushed to grab the contaminated food, prioritizing survival over disgust, as hunger overpowered their fastidiousness. Back in their cabin, Lu Dehai and his brothers returned with 2 large food buckets, smiling triumphantly, while other cabin inhabitants watched with mixed reactions, some sneering in disdain, others swallowing hard with hunger but too intimidated by the blood-dripping toothbrushes to act. Lu Dehai, recalling how no one helped when he was beaten yesterday, felt no obligation to share and instead licked the blood from his toothbrush in a gruesome display to assert dominance. He then invited Huang Deshang, the fisherman who had dragged them back after the beating, to eat, handing him a steamed bun, which Huang devoured eagerly despite the meager meal of steamed buns, thin porridge, and shredded potatoes with green peppers. Inspired by this, 2 other fishermen, friends of Huang Deshang and acquaintances of Lu Dehai, approached ingratiatingly, offering to follow him in exchange for food. Lu Dehai gave them each 2 steamed buns, welcoming them into his group. Others in the cabin gradually gathered around, but when an elderly businessman asked for food, Lu Dehai sneered and rebuffed him harshly, highlighting his uselessness and past inaction, causing the man to retreat in fear. However, several clever young men, observing the successful approach of the fishermen, boldly offered to follow and fight for Lu Dehai, who, though skeptical of their reliability, gave them steamed buns to join, rapidly expanding his group to 7 or 8 adult men. This led to the formation of 2 major factions in the lower decks, the smuggler gang led by Zagu and the fishermen's gang led by Lu Dehai, both vying for control of food, while non-aligned refugees scavenged scraps or starved. Upstairs, Zhang Yi, informed by Lao Tian, expressed indifference, joking that disturbing his sleep was the only real offense in delegating authority, showing complete disregard for lower deck lives. Meanwhile, Zhu Yunk and Sun Wanchu were preoccupied with Tommy's illness, a skin infection from poor diaper hygiene, and after Zhou Kor administered medication and lectured them, they felt guilty but weary, resolving never to have children again, though they continued care, oblivious to the escalating crisis below that would lead to casualties and tragedy over the next 3 days, while Zhang Yi spent his time monitoring for sea monsters and studying calligraphy with Zhou Kor, contrasting sharply with the deadly struggles in the lower decks.